Do you go to therapy? And if you do you people please your therapist? I'm Jaime, I'm a licensed therapist, and on this page we talk therapy tips, we talk mental health issues, we talk trauma. Make sure you're following and subscribing. Let's get into this topic. I pulled my Instagram followers and many of you said, please, please, please talk about what happens when you are in therapy and you start people pleasing your therapist. So let's break this down. You are possibly new to therapy. Even if you're not, you might have changed therapist. Maybe this is a therapist you've been working for a while, and you start, let's say, getting into some sensitive issues or some just more difficult to process topics, all right? And what happens in people who tend to either be perfectionists or have a lot of social anxiety around how they come off, or even just that general people pleasing, they genuinely tend to soothe the aggressor, soothe the authority, right? It could be possibly someone who's a threat, which would be an aggressor, or an authority, or a leader or elder, or someone that's looked at as, I guess, above them, which therapists are not above you. Please know this. What is so interesting about people pleasing your therapist is that the way I describe it to people is that what happens in the therapy room, and most therapists will tell you this, but what happens in the therapy room many times mimics how that individual interacts in their outside world. So if this person that I'm working with as a client typically tends to basically make themselves, accommodate a leader, a pastor, a teacher, a professor, a doctor, right? This is someone who might find it incredibly hard to be in medical appointments because they might go there and have this entire thing that they want to either ask for, or they want to ask questions about, or they want to advocate for themselves about. And they get in there, and in actually the physician world, they actually call this like white coat syndrome, which is when you get into the office, you see a white coat, you see a doctor, and your blood pressure goes up, your anxiety goes up, you struggle with basically being in that room with an authority figure. And that is more related, I think, to the medical stuff. But if you think about psychologically what's happening, why is the blood pressure raising? Why is there this like massive amount of anxiety? So it can be from a bunch of factors, right? It could just be from health issues. It also could be from psychological stuff that's saying like, I want to speak about, let's say, something sensitive like my sexual history, and I don't feel like I can because I don't want this person to think that I sleep around. So instead of asking and advocating for their health, they tend to people please the doctor, and they're like, whatever you think I am, I'm going to be, right? And so they don't bring up their sexual history, and they don't bring up something that's really important, and then that doesn't get attended to. So if we think about this in the therapy realm, what is so important is we really have to understand what it feels like to be in the therapy session and to talk to yourself about what happened during that session. So for example, if you found yourself wanting to bring up a topic, my curiosity would be like, okay, if you are closing that door in your therapy session or turning off your computer, and you realize the entire time I wanted to bring something up, but I didn't allow myself. When we talk about people pleasing, what I would be curious is about, like, are you not bringing it up because you don't want to talk about it, which is totally possible, right? Or do you want to talk about it, but you don't want to like burst that therapist bubble that you think they perceive you to be. So if you think that your therapist is like, my therapist thinks that I'm some angel that never has sex or never has problems and never lies, I can't burst that bubble. I can't tell that therapist that I lied, because that would burst their bubble of who they think I am. So what are we, right? Why do I make these videos? We're going to talk about like a strategy. What are we going to do? What are we going to do about that issue? Obviously we can't fix this overnight, but I'm going to give you a couple of things. We're going to give some skills or strategies around this to just try to sit with this idea. Well, first of all, just start asking the question. Just start asking the question, what happened in session? And make sure you're releasing the shame around that. Truly. Do not say, oh, the dialogue in your mind cannot be, oh, I'm such a piece of crap. Like, I didn't bring up that topic. I just faked it. And there I go again, being inauthentic. Like, no, the dialogue within yourself has to be very curious. It has to be very compassionate. It's going to sound like you turn off the computer, shutting the door to that session and being like, why am I not allowed to show up authentically to my therapist? And why is that so important? Why is that such an important step? Because there could be multiple reasons. There could be issues with the like your therapist might not be creating a safe environment for you. That's a valid reason. Truly. They might have come off very arrogant or very judgmental, and you genuinely don't feel safe to bring that up. That's valid, right? If you come to the conclusion of like, well, my therapist is safe and I did have an opportunity to show up, I just didn't want to shift their perception of who I think they think I am. I know it sounds silly, but truly, like, I don't want to burst their bubble about this like persona that I'm worried they formed of me in my head. And then my question is like, that is mimicking situations that's happening on the external. Like, truly, there is a dialogue about authenticity, about how you're allowed to show up in your life, right? Like, do you allow your friends to see your true, authentic, raw, real self? Do you allow, your partner to see your authentic, raw, real self? Are there instances that you're doing those similar things to your external environment and it's just showing up in the therapy session? So it actually is an incredible opportunity for growth. Truly, it's an incredible opportunity for growth, because not that this stuff is easy. This takes a lot of emotional navigation skills and a lot of like allowance. You hear it's like allowance to be with yourself and to just ask these curious questions and to just be like, I'm just wondering why I find it so hard. Moving forward, I would encourage it to be this like open dialogue with your therapist. So it would be something like, not even maybe venturing into the conversation. If let's say it is about sexuality or like, you're lying or something. Okay. If you are talking to your therapist, don't even talk about the sexuality or the lying. Literally just talk about the process that you're struggling with. So it would sound something like, last session, I found myself not allowing myself to explore a topic. And when I sat with that, I realized one of the main reasons I wasn't allowing myself to explore that was I didn't want to burst your bubble of who you think that I am. Notice you didn't talk about lying or sexuality. You're literally talking about the process of what happened in that previous session. Incredible growth can happen from that moment. Incredible growth. Genuinely, I'm telling you, if this is something that you struggle with, just start some of those initial processes. Work on some of those initial things, and I'm telling you, there can be some really, really pivotal conversations that can come from just those initial steps. remember that this channel is a therapeutic resource. It's not therapy, but it's a resource for you to supplement any type of self-growth that you're having and making sure that you can keep yourself on track, that you can propel yourself forward. And so stick around, watch the shorts, watch the long form, but I will be here as a resource for all of you. And that's all I got today. Make sure you're subscribing, comment, like, and I am sending strength for your day. See you next time.